if we were naming a segment of this discussion, I would call it Talk Truth segment, because many people are afraid to talk truth. But I have been a very, very honest person, simply because I saw them grow me, and I don't like dishonesty, and so truth is important in everything. So there are some people who might be saying, I've never gotten anything from one government or another. But in all honesty, if you live in Jamaica while that particular party forms the government, you'd have gotten something directly or indirectly. Most people would have gotten something indirectly. But in this my talk truth moment, I will tell you the two times I have gotten money directly from governments being led by the People's National Party and governments being led by the Jamaica Labour Party. Now, of course, every true confession comes with a story time. But my story is a very, very simple yet profound one. And the first part of my story, I'm still benefiting. I'm still living the benefits today. Now, not going to make it way too long, but I like to give context so you understand. In 1988, I was offered a scholarship to study in Spain. It was really an intercultural program, but it was being partially funded. And there was a percentage that we, the recipients, had to fund. At that time, I would have been 15 years old. Fourth form student, I would imagine, yes. And I was selected out of a cadre of students. Now, with that selection and the euphoria that I felt, came the daunting prospect of financing my portion for the trip. Now, back then, the amount to be funded was 3,600 US, roughly. And that worked out to a little over 16,000 Jamaican. The dollar would have been 5 point something to 1. And we never saw the first cent. I remember after I was selected and all the fanfare, my mother said to me, well, it was good that you were selected. It's nice that they thought that highly of you, but it not gonna happen. I don't have that money, and just be happy that you made it that far in the process. And believe you me, my crescendo, my little heart, everything just fell. I was broken, I was hurt, I was done. And because I was such an obedient little girl, I accepted my mother's words as gospel. And that was the end of that. But my mother at that time had a partner. Never forgot this wonderful man. His name was Mr. Wright. And if I might put a little comedic plug, I am still looking for my Mr. Wright. So Mr. Wright said to me, Sheri, you're a bright little girl, and I know you're a fighter. He must have been speaking into my future self, because me never see that. And you should not give up. You should pursue this dream. So I said, what a nice pep talk. But how is it gonna happen? And he said, listen, I'm going to help you. Now, I thought Mr. Wright had a bag of cash sitting someplace and he was going to just pay for the thing. Instead, he said, come, let us go sit at the dining table and work out a plan. And we worked on all the possibilities. He said to me, ask your father now. My father was a Canadian living in Canada and was really estranged from my mother. But because Mr. Wright said, ask your father, I said, okay, I'll ask my father. And we worked on all kind of other possibilities, got the school to do begging letters. Never forgot, I walked from Camperdown High School out to Cement. No, actually, I didn't walk. I took a bus. And then I got off the bus, but it felt like a long walk even after getting off the bus to go to Cement Company to drop off the begging letter, go to Shell out at Rockfort. I remember I had an interview with the manager at Shell and I think even at Flour Mill. But their response was, we only sponsor athletics. And I said to him with my little precocious self, but it's not all of us can run. And some of us have to make the school great by way of academia. He said, yes, that's all fine and good. But the way we see the return on our investment is that visibility that sports brings. I remember walking out with tears brimming out of my eyes. And that was the beginning of me learning how to deal with rejection. Well, I went on to visit my mother's friend, a family friend who lived on Manenzil Road. She was paralyzed on one side of her body. I talk about her all the time, Mrs. Salmon. And Mrs. Salmon was so touched by my grief. She said right on the spot, come, let us call RGR's calling program, Public Eye, I believe it was, and let us make a public appeal. And so I called, and back in those days, to get through was quite a challenge. And so we called, and as fate would have it, I got through. I can't remember, I wish I did remember who was the host at the time. But I told my story, the appeal went out, and a gentleman who owned Pete's Patty responded and said, I am going to pay half of the money, $8,000 odd, guys, 1,500 and odd US, and he paid it. So now I was halfway there and very, very positive, very happy. I was walking on sunshine. And so my journey began with this new possibility. I am going to Europe. I'm going to study abroad. What could be more intriguing? But as time wore on and as the deadline came, having received the deposit from Pete's Patty, my balance became due and I could not get any more help. Now, my mother volunteered or worked, I don't know. I was in between understanding what was her situation. But she did some things at the constituency office, some work. She was administrative. So she did some work at the constituency office in Waterford, where we lived, which was close to our house, walking distance. As a matter of fact, back in those days, anywhere in Waterford would have to be walking distance because how else were you going to get around if you didn't have a car? And somehow I pitched my case to the then MP, PNP, and the offer was made to give $1,000 to my effort. And so that is what happened. And so, unlike most people who put them mouth a ground and them full of shame, I'm not ashamed to say I got money from the PNP government. And that money that I got went into the pool. And if I were to be very, very honest, that contribution that the PNP government made to my education has continued to pay dividends because I returned to Jamaica fluent in Spanish, quite developed in terms of international relations, and I have sown liberally within the tourism industry, both as a Spanish translator and a hospitality worker. And in my latter years, as an agency owner, working heavily in the Latin American market. As a matter of fact, my last Norwegian cruise that I booked came to me as a lead who needed somebody who spoke Spanish. And I was very, very happy to walk her through the process. She was so grateful. She lives in Florida. And I booked her on the Norwegian Gem. And I think she returned from her sailing just on Monday. It was a 4-night cruise, a short cruise. And so, yes, I received, and I am always going to acknowledge and be grateful for the help that I got from the PNP's government. Now let's fast forward to 2020. So many years later, and I had been charting my own course, going through life, having my ups and my downs, living, doing life. But with COVID and with me recently walking away from a marriage of 24 years plus and being made homeless, things were not looking good. COVID came at a time where I thought I would have been broken. But in retrospect, and even while I was going through it, I saw that it was a blessing in many ways. Now, here comes April 2020. My clients who were staying at Rio, we had to make a quick decision to get them on their flight back to the States. Jamaica was shutting down. Everything was going belly up. It was also my best year in my business, and I had booked trips totaling hundreds of thousands of US dollars. And it all disappeared in a heartbeat. Fortunately, at the time, I had found accommodation in our old family house, old and broken down and in need of endless repairs. The rats that ran through the roof were the size of mongoose, and the conditions were unbelievable. But like the trooper that I had to be, I rolled up my sleeves and I dug deep in trying to make the house livable because I had no choice. But as things got really dire, and being the warrior, not the warrior now, the warrior, I worry, I was sure that we were not going to make it. Then the government, the JLP, announced that there would be an assistance program, and they outlined the parameters, and my accountant advised the steps to take. And so we did the paperwork, we sent it in, and this was a monthly grant of $9,000, I believe. I think it was 9,000. Somehow I have 9,000, I have 18,000 in my mind. It could have been $9,000 every 2 weeks, whatever it was. It was frequent enough to keep the bare necessities, food, and paid the light bill. And for that, I was eternally grateful. Now, this part of the story doesn't have to be as long because it's just recent, and there's nothing much to say about that period of COVID, except I can say this. Had it not been for that frequent payout, I think it was 9,000 every fortnight, so it was 18,000. Had it not been for that amount that some people thought was chicken feed, I might not be here with you today. And so while everybody's jumping up, masquerading, parading, belittling, I live in a space of gratitude because help came when help was needed most. And this is just one person, one Jamaican, one Jamaican who had options to leave and chose to stay. And even though I have gone through my own struggles, I have gotten help. And those moments of help have made me bounce back stronger than ever. And so, in my parting words, it's important that we separate all the chatter and we be honest. Yes, for me, I got help. I got help from both political parties as they led governance. And I'm forever grateful. What do I expect as we go forward? I expect that the needs of the people collectively be addressed. I expect that the opportunities for self-help and growth be created for the people. And I expect that as a nation, whichever political party forms our government, we can be proud of who they are and what they're doing. So all of this banter back and forth that politicians seem to think win elections, that's not sustainable. That's not what the people, the people, are looking for. We're looking for an opportunity to live, work, earn, raise our families, and relax, just the way the tourists do in this our beautiful Jamaica land we love.